All right.
Sopita.
Sopitas.com, yeah. Well, so congratulations on the movie. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks.
And also, I want to begin with the basics. So, how did you come up with the story?
Well, it's it's interesting on this one because it had a lot of moving parts. But if there's one germ that started the whole ball rolling, it was about 10 years ago. I was making a movie, more or less 10 years ago, making a movie, and it had an older action guy in it, and shooting with him, and he goes, hey, Quentin, I got a guy. He's been my guy for like about 10 years or 15 years. And we don't really have anything for him, so I didn't bug you about it. But, we got that gag coming up on Wednesday. He could do that, so if you wouldn't mind, oh, yeah, sure, no worries, all right. So the guy came in just for like a day, did this gag, and he was fine. But the dynamic that they had together was interesting because you could tell, like maybe 15, 12 years ago, that they probably looked exactly alike, and they were probably amazing. But now it's they don't look quite as much like each other anymore. They gotten a little older. But I'm sitting on the set, and I'm looking across the set at them, and they're both dressed identical in the exact same outfits, like I'm sure they've been for like the whole 15 years of their career. All right, sitting on wooden director's chairs like this, just shooting the breeze in between takes. And I watched that dynamic from across the set, and I remember thinking, wow, that's a really interesting dynamic. Now, if you were gonna like do a movie about Hollywood and try to find some characters on the inside to look out, that dynamic could be an interesting way to explore it. So that was the initial germ that eventually became this.
I'm Rick Dalton. It's my pleasure, Mr. Schwartz.
Call me Marvin. Put it there. That your son?
No, it's my stunt double, Cliff Booth.
And then you went back to the 60s, 70s, 90s.
Yeah, well, then I decided then it was decide, what era to put it in. And then to me, that era was like very fascinating because it was a whole cultural revolution that, and it's rare for a big commercial industry like Hollywood, which is a commercial industry, to actually embrace a rather flaky counterculture movement to the degree that they did. But they did. And it just made everything that Hollywood thought it was about for the last 30, at least post-war, from the post-war time, so the last 25 years, just seemed obsolete overnight. And a whole new era of Hollywood and a whole new era of movies were being brought in. And then there's a whole lot of actors that would be hard-pressed to work in 1962 or 58 or whatever, like the Al Pacinos and the Dustin Hoffmans and the Elliot Goulds and all these Jack Nicholsons and all these 70s leading men. All right. Meanwhile, all these leading men like Rick, like the Ty Hardins and the George Maharises and the Vince Edwards were now all of a sudden passé, and they were kind of being left out.
Seems this world got you down. You're feeling bad vibrations.
And caught my attention that the three main characters were from different social status in Hollywood. There's the main actor, there's the stuntman, and also this glamorous Sharon Tate.
No, they all three represent like three different social stratas in Hollywood. I mean, in the case of Sharon Tate, you have somebody who is at the beginning of their career when things are going really well. And so the world kind of seemingly is her oyster. Like a lot of things could happen for her right now, and it's all very exciting. And she's married to like one of the biggest directors in the world at that time. So already she's set as far as that's concerned. But even in her own career, there's just nothing but promise and possibility. And the arrow is definitely pointing up. Now, with Rick Dalton's character, he's not doing as bad as I think he thinks he is. I think Rick is a bit of a crybaby about his own situation. I'm not even talking about his crying jags. I just think he doesn't appreciate how good his career is. But nevertheless, he's not going up anymore. At best, he's staying put. And at worst, maybe is more in a more downward trajectory. But it might take, but he's still able to work. It's still not that bad. But he's not sitting in Sharon's place anymore. The idea of him starring in these 70s movies doesn't seem very likely. Cliff represents somebody wholly other. He represents, and I met a lot of people like this, he represents somebody who's worked in the entertainment industry their whole life and doesn't have really anything to show for it. But they had a good time. But they have good memories, and they had good times.
What it is a stunt double does. Actors are required to do a lot of dangerous stuff. Cliff here is meant to help carry the load.
Is that how you describe your job, Cliff?
What, carrying his load? Yeah, it's about right.
The movie also touches one of the most tragical moments in Roman Polanski's life. So, I wonder if you have talked to him, if he have maybe talked to you.
Yeah, well, during in pre-production of the movie when I was writing the script, I didn't want to reach out to him then because I just had to write my script. I couldn't. I had to finish my work, and but I'm very sensitive to where he could be coming from as far as this is concerned. I'm very sensitive where all these people could be coming from as far as dealing with their relatives and the people that they know. But the thing is, when Roman heard about the movie, he reached out through a mutual friend of ours, all right, and just asked, hey, what's going on? And apparently he wasn't like mad. He was just, I hear this, what's going on? He just wants to know what the deal was. So I had a good friend of his come over to my house, and I had him read the script. And so he read the script, and then he was able to tell Roman, "Hey, look, you don't have nothing to worry about." So I had somebody read the script and just pass on to Roman what it was about and where I was coming from.
Awesome. And how did you end up casting Luke Perry?
Oh, well, I've always been a fan of Luke's. I always thought he was a really good actor. I always thought he was a really nice guy. We met each other about 12 years ago at some party and had a really fun conversation. Never really saw him again. But I noticed he was on Riverdale, and I watched him on that show, and I thought he was really terrific. And I also know he's a really good cowboy guy. He's a really good horseman. So I'm a big fan of the show Lancer that we have in the thing, and I actually thought he would just be a great Scotty Lancer. I actually think Timothy Olyphant and Luke Perry were great as the Lancer brothers in it. I thought they looked terrific.
All right, what's the matter, partner?
It's official, old buddy. I'm a has-been.
August night and the leaves hanging down and the grass on the ground.
Here I am, flat on my ass. And who I got living next door to me?
I know that maybe this question has been asked to you so many times, but on the title of the movie, on the poster, it says like the ninth movie by Quentin Tarantino, and it has been so much discussed about your plans to retire after the 10th film. Yeah. So, are you sticking to that plan?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan is to and that'll be like it's a few years from now. So I think by that point in time, I'll have officially been making movies, theatrical features to build a filmography for 30 years. I think that's a good, healthy career.
And what about the Star Trek project?
Well, we'll see what happens with that. There's a really good script that exists. I like it. I need to start putting my input in it. I haven't been able to do it because I've been doing this, but it's very exciting. It's very interesting, and we have a process to go through it. All right, but we're entering the process very enthusiastic.
And I question this because with all these streaming platforms, it looks like a very good era to be a director, to have and work in different projects.
Well, I gotta say, it's I've had a couple people either bring up to me or bring up just in on a podcast opposing stuff about it's obvious that Tarantino had so much material for this movie. Why didn't he just commit to do a 6 or 7 hour miniseries and do everything? Well, that's tempting. That's definitely tempting, all right? Because I'm always stuck in a situation where I write these big novels and then I have to cut them down to movie length. And so, look, that would definitely be tempting to do something like that. And now that's more of a reality. However, with this movie, I thought, yeah, I could do that. I could just film all the material, and I think it would be very good. But I wanted this to have a theatrical experience. I think this is a movie that could build to a 2.5 hour point, all right, that would really deliver the climax. in a big way, but having you sitting in a movie theater and having the people sitting around you all reacting to it, as opposed to talking about it Monday morning at work because you watched it on Sunday on TV.
Yeah, and it's what's happening right now with that Netflix, how should release its movie.
I mean, look, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I've been wanting, the idea that I would actually have a place to do a 6 or 7 hour movie, all right, which didn't exist before now, is very exciting. That could very well happen. Now, to me, it wouldn't be a movie. It would be something else. And frankly, it would be different. It would be vastly different. Yes, I'd be able to shoot all this material, but I probably wouldn't have the budget I would have that I had on this, or I wouldn't have the time I would have on this. I'd be working with a TV schedule. So yeah, you're shooting a lot of material, but you're not able to take the time with it that I was able to take with this. So there's a trade-off.
Also, and this is the final question is, this year turns 25 from Pulp Fiction. So this year Pulp Fiction turns 25. So how do you reflect on the movie back on time?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, that 25-year landmark is happening while I have this movie, which is strangely enough, I think the closest to Pulp Fiction that I've done. I think there is a symmetry to them. They both deal with Los Angeles as a town, and they both deal with characters who move around the movie, who move around through Los Angeles, and the random people that they meet along their way. So there is that kind of, and I think there's a funky vibe that it shares with Pulp Fiction as well. So like I said, either it's a good thing or it's a bad thing that because of this, I'm not really dwelling on what Pulp Fiction means 25 years later or the whole landmark aspect of it, because I'm thinking about this right now.